Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am scandalous like an Ashley. And I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Comics. And they are coming to local comic stores near you come March and April. So this month and next month. So go bug your comic shops. And I can tell you they got some really sexy comic covers. And if you sign up for their email list at pocketjackcomics.com right now, you will get a free preview PDF copy of one of their books, and they're fun books, so you can try before you buy it. As well as a few of my friends have gotten themselves into a bit of a controversial position on Kickstarter, and that is the Living Dead Girl, which is Jason Connolly and Greg Bo Watson, who are two great people, and they have some awesome stuff going on with their Kickstarter. Links in the description down below, so go check it out if you like bad girl art. But enough about that, because I have with me legendary comic creator and cartoonist Larry Welz. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited because obviously you are a legend. You've been doing this forever. You obviously have a very cool, interesting IP called Cherry. It's beautiful, beautiful, graphic novel omnibus, I think is what we call it today. Hardcover. And I think this was your last or maybe two Kickstarters ago that you did with this. But obviously you've been doing Cherry for a very long time. And I threw this out there. I think the two most important, there's actually three people in comics who are the three most important people. Al Cap, Larry Welz, and Dennis Kitchen have obviously pushed out freedom of speech in comics more than anybody else has, and has really set, I think, the stage for what we have today. I think you're one of the three, and there's obviously others, but those three individuals, including yourself, have clearly pushed what could be done in a comic. And so very much important. I don't know if you want that title, but that's where we're at.
Oh no, that's my pet cause. Is I'm a champion of free speech. That's my deal. The whole idea.
Yeah. So obviously, though, I do want to talk about Cherry because that's your baby, and some people know Cherry, some people don't. I am newer to Cherry than some other people, where I didn't know Cherry existed, and then you came across my feed, through a bunch of a mutual connection, and she's running your campaigns. I think she's running your campaigns right now. But we got connected, and obviously I now know Cherry, but I didn't grow up reading Cherry. I didn't know what it was until I saw your campaigns. And so there's people here who don't know anything about Cherry, but they might be discovering for the first time. So what is Cherry?
What is Cherry? It's a in the 60s and 70s, we were doing in San Francisco mostly. We were doing what we call underground comics. That just meant it was not distributed and in the regular ways. And actually, you can only get them at head shops in those days, and they still anyway. I had been doing some other comics, and I did Captain Gus, my superhero parody thing, which is based on the idea that in the 60s, superhero comics were really boring and terrible, and the heroes were boring, and the villains were more interesting characters, and so I had to just do idiot superhero. He's not a redneck, but a right-wing guy, a frustrated guy that was scared of everything. And when he drank a beer, he turned into Captain Guts, this big, and beat up hippies. But anyway, and that was hard. And I did some other stuff, and then I just, I was kind of waiting for somebody to do that, to do Archie as like real teenagers, do something crazy with them. And I thought it seemed so obvious, and so I go, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll do it. And I just did it as a one-off. And I just thought, what if I didn't directly parody the Archie characters or anything like that? It was just the genre. At that point, what every comic company had a wacky teenager title, right? Marvel had Millie the Model, and there was Scooter and Binky or something or other. But and so I just did it in that style, and then the cover. And I was inspired by the Air Pirates, actually, Dan O'Neill and the Air Pirates. So they're doing the Mickey Mouse stuff, doing it where the covers look just like it, but there's subtle differences. But you could put it on the rack and you wouldn't know the difference. So, mother would say, "Oh, here, take your comic book and shut up," and you would poison their minds, So, but so I did it as a one-off, doing what if the Archie characters acted like real teenagers and doing drugs and having sex and getting into crazy things, which and a large part of it was the other underground stuff. And so we could do anything we wanted. Now we're like, spreading our wings and trying out crazy stuff, and exercising our freedom of speech. Because we realized that that we could do anything we want. It was, I credit S. Clay Wilson actually with that, because he did the stuff that was just so crazy. And it's not that he kicked the door open. He showed us that the door was open, that we could do anything we fucking wanted. And so, and he did really sexy stuff, but it was really gross and horrible. And most of the other places that would sex was associated with violence and icky.
Yeah, so let's actually talk about this, because I've only read a few issues of Cherry so far. Obviously, I have the whole thing in front of me, and I'm enjoying it slowly when I have time. But I'm excited to read it. But it's fun. Cherry's a very fun character. I don't want to say she's ditzy, but she's kind of a little bit ditzy. She's very promiscuous. She isn't necessarily dumb, but she wants to have a good time, is how I describe Cherry. And
Right.
She's enjoying her life, and she's very liberated, might be a good way to put it, in the nicest way I can. And she winds up in some funny situations because of it. And a lot of stuff's going on. There's a lot of humor. And it's kind of, the first sort of sex positive comic in a lot of ways. I know Pat Chan very well, and he likes to do comics that do that. And you're kind of like the first one who did it with Cherry in a lot of ways. And that's the other thing too that makes it fun, where I'm not reading Cherry because I want to expand my mind, and I'm not reading the next great American novel. I'm reading something that's fun, entertaining, and takes my mind away from life, because life is complicated and stressful right now. And so that's why this is so interesting, is that it kind of just made Archie fun and sexy. And it's great, because I think that's what people want.
Yeah, well, that was the idea. So what if sex was portrayed as being a nice thing, a fun thing, and a harmless thing? And then that made it ironic that it being explicit sex, then it was dangerous. Well, yeah, well, does that look dangerous to you? No. And yeah, it's sex positive. And then the deal about it, and it wasn't about her just being attacked and raped by something or other, some huge monster or tentacles or something like that. It, I made a point of it being that she's never a victim, without saying anything about it. But that actually came across, and I'm really gratified by the number of women fans that I have that got that completely. And that's, not that she's empowered, but she's just not a victim. She's
she's enjoying her life,
captain of her own ship. She's sitting of her own fate and something like that. But yeah.
So
that amuses me that now this is horrible and dangerous and everything because of that. And so yeah. So that's why everybody loves me, but I don't get to be a guest at any conventions because I'm not family friendly.
So yeah, but I think I understand why cons don't want that, because it is tricky. It is tricky when you have a book that isn't family friendly, or you can't hide it. as family friendly. Like, there's plenty of cons that don't want somebody to put a nude book out on their table, but they don't have a problem with like an M-rated comic book. They have a problem if it's legitly the whole thing is M-rated and it's being sold as it. And Cherry's a hard book to hide that on. It just is. And it's not because there's nothing wrong with that. It's just if you don't know what Cherry is, I'm sorry. It's like you if you buy this book, you know what you're buying. Is the point?
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, the comic shops, they used to have an adult section, which is just something either at the end of the table there or in another room or something like that. And you had, whatever, show ID or something like that. But so that all the nasty comics would be in there. So and they think that happened because of me. But then that worked out, and yeah, I'm going to the Sacramento Con, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to have a section of adult stuff, and then it's okay.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. But obviously, the graphic novel and you doing the omnibus, which collect all the comics, did not start kind of this out for you. The way I found you was that you were doing action figures of Cherry. And that's something that I don't know if that was your first campaign or if you were doing enamel pins before that, because I don't think you started off with the comic stuff. I think that came second or third. But that's what's so interesting about Cherry is that Cherry isn't just you doing the comic or bringing the comic back or doing a single issue. It has expanded into some other things too, such as the action figures, a lot of pins. I know there's been a bunch of sketch cards that people have done. I think April Reina has done a few. I know Rusty Gilkin has done a few. And then there's countless others who have also done a bunch of stuff in that regard. And so what is that like for you? Because it's now just not a comic anymore. It's kind of a brand and it's other products in a lot of ways. And maybe somebody doesn't love comics, but they love action figures. Or maybe somebody is a pin collector and they're like, I like the way this pin looks. And so it kind of expands what you can do and what you've done, and even the whole premise of what Cherry is as an IP versus a comic book.
Yeah, well, it was always comics, and I never did get much merchandise going. But the stuff at Discordia, who's publishing the omnibus, that was their idea. The first idea was to do the action figure. An early action figure doesn't move or anything like that, and it's a 3D printed thing. But that's the whole. They're doing the vinyl toy thing, which is a whole scene of collectors and stuff, and they so it has to stay in its package and everything like that, and so the half of it is the package itself, and and so then and then when you do that, then you got to come out with other variations on it or spin-offs on it or something like that to keep them coming back, and so it's like the NFT thing, but not really. But that I don't do that.
So what is this like for you though? Because obviously, when you first started doing Cherry, toys weren't. I mean, toys have always been big, but they weren't where they are today.
No.
Collectability. Baseball cards, Pokemon cards, comics, toys. I can't think of some other stuff that Pop Funkos. All that stuff is huge collectibles. And my generation, and even potentially the generation that grew up with some of this stuff, wants their old toys back or similar toys to their old toys. And what is that like for you? Because you didn't get to experience that when this stuff was first coming out, but now it's like the market is there now and it's easier to do it than ever before. And so what is that like for you to see your comic book become a toy, become a pin, become a product outside of just being printed on paper? And especially when you first started out underground, I don't think this is a secret, but maybe you didn't have the best printing paper, when you first started out. Like, you kind of bootstrapping it all together. So, it's a long journey into a very cool position, I feel.
Oh yeah, well, it's Well, it's kind of strange now, actually, because it's a whole different. The market is completely different. Comic books are like a thing now, and in the paper, right? And I actually wanted to do uh, the new comics that are doing and everything on newsprint, but you can't do that anymore. It used to be done in what runs of 10,000 at a time, so they're done on a web press like a newspaper tabloid. It was a tabloid, and you got folded up and then put a cover on it and trimmed and stuff. But yeah, and I like that. You know, the idea of comics that they're to be read. You know, you fold them up and you stick them in your back pocket, and you stuff. And it was just a comic. And now it's a precious thing. It's an artifact. It's a collector's item. You know, which is nice. You know, because we don't do anywhere near as huge a runs like that, so it isn't getting out to the general public as much as it was, but we're doing it ourselves, and so we get to keep the money. You know, we sell it for more, and I get to keep the money, and so it works out better like that. But I really would like to get it out more. But it's but it's interesting, and being a toy and stuff like that is it's great. It's kind of what I was trying for, as be a because she's a. It's her iconic nature. That's why it's a success, because it isn't, and she isn't really specific. She isn't a specific character, so she's whatever you want to be. It's kind of like Betty Boop. You know, most people that are into Betty Boop, they have no idea that she used to do, you know, these weird cartoons and with Cab Calloway and shit like that, and they probably don't even know there was cartoons in it, or there was, you know, animated. But it just sort of represents an attitude, kind of, you know. So that's really gratifying to seeing that. Oh yeah, that's her.
Let's actually talk about it. You mentioned something about getting it out more. You know, one of the things that I think comics have failed on, and I'm very curious your opinion on this, is that manga in Japan is cheap. It comes out weekly. It comes out fast. It's in black and white, and it's not treasured. You know, where
Right.
you go through, you know, kids or whoever's reading it on the newspaper, going to their job, they're reading the latest chapter of One Piece, and then they just throw it out or they leave it on the train, and you can go at the end of the day, pick up like 15 different mangas and never have to pay for manga in Japan because people don't treasure it the same way, where it's like $2, you get your chapter, comes out every week, you know, and it's not a collectible item to these people in Japan. They just want to read this story and move on to the next one. And I think, and that's why there's mass distribution, because you know that people are just going to throw it out. You don't need to print it on great quality, and it's meant to be read. And I feel comics today are massively expensive. You know, on Kickstarter, a variant's 15 to 20 bucks. In a comic shop, you're looking at $6 a book. I mean, how can little Johnny afford a comic book? And then mommy doesn't want to go spend $6. Mommy's like, yo, we got like $4, Johnny. You were good in the supermarket, but like there's nothing here for you. And then Johnny is in the supermarket and they have a Hot Wheels car for $1, and Hot Wheels is in the supermarket, and Johnny gets his Hot Wheels car instead of a comic for $2.
Right.
But mom's not very happy because she can't give the book to Johnny. Johnny will shut up, and then mommy can, thank God, you know. and so like, I think, and I'm curious what you think, because I think the problem is that they're not cheap enough and they're not in the right places to sell. And in Japan, I think they figured that out. I think the American industry has to figure that out. I don't know if it means going to black and white. I don't mean if it means getting into places that they'll sell, or conversely, maybe just printing 3 times as much and lowering the price, or maybe instead of making, you know, 200% on a book, they only make 100% on a book. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm curious what you think, because to me, it's a problem. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Well, mostly just I guess the volume of stuff, like the manga. There's so much of it coming out there. I mean, what big thick things that come out every month, and with all these things in it, and so it's
sounds
so
like crazy too. Apparently, it's $10.
Yeah.
$10 for 10 chapters at Barnes and Noble is compared to what, a $25, 148 page, Spider-Man book produced by Marvel.
Right.
I mean, to me, I think manga has a better value as far as reader goes. I get 200 pages for $10.
Is that what it is? Yeah. 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 Well, it's just there's so much of it out there, and it's so much. It's just that's a common thing. So it isn't, it isn't precious because it's not. And
I mean, I don't know what the answer is for American comics because
right.
my whole issue is that, I don't think it's a secret to say, and I don't think you work for the big two at the moment. And if you do, I'm sorry, but DC and Marvel have a real problem where I feel like they're half the work they produce is great, and the other half is really, really bad.
Yeah.
And when I go to a comic shop and I pick up 6 DC books and 6 Marvel books, I'm under the presumption that 6 of those books are going to suck. And the other 6 are going to be okay or great. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know by title and I don't know by issue anymore. So I can't go and be like, oh man, Batman's always good. I'm safe with Batman. Because I picked up some weird stuff from Marvel. And I'm like, I've never heard of these characters and it's fantastic. And then I've said, oh man, Spider-Man, it's an average book. It's bad to average. And so I don't know if it's a writing problem. I don't know if it's a marketing problem. I don't know if they've tried everything, or I don't know if just the clientele has changed where they're like, look, we're just sick of these characters and we want something that is kind of fresh. And I'm really curious what you think because you've produced a lot of work. You've been in this game for a very long time. And obviously, you're now sort of bringing an underground comic back into the forefront. And I think your opinion, as somebody who's been, is considered a legendary person in comics and extremely influential and has paved the path for a lot of other people, I think your opinion really matters on this more so than mine.
Yeah. Well, right. Well, I've been doing it so long that now, now people that are discovering it, they have no idea they're, they weren't even alive when it was a happening thing. And that, so yeah, it's why I tried to keep it not topical, but more timeless and stuff like that. And actually worked, but it is very much of the 80s. And so, so it's almost like a time capsule, I guess, cultural references, things, but it's to this, well, this is like 3 generations later. Now this is fresh stuff to them, which is great. So, okay, there you go.
Do you also feel
different format now? It's not like it was before, just grabbing a comic and reading it, yeah, pass it around, leave it in your bathroom and stuff, and yeah. So, but yeah. So in a minute that then it's like, oh, geez, well, it better be good then. It's gonna be so precious, But I don't know.
So to even go further into this, because do you also feel that we are in an internet age, we're in a social media age, that finding something like Cherry is easier than ever before? Because when you type in comics that push the edge or freedom of speech comics, your name comes up. I've obviously, said Dennis Kitchen, Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, Larry Welz is there, Larry Flint is another one who's championed, stuff of that nature. You could throw in Dean Yeagle into that group to certain degrees with Mandy, which is similar to Cherry in a lot of ways. And so this is one of the things that I think is really fascinating is that I think a bunch of people like me are saying, look, we want something new. We want something witty. We want something fun. We want something that is fun, sexy, but not over the top, not gratuitous, not, violent sex, not sex just for no good reason, but a story and a fun story behind that. And I think my generation, because I'm 31, is discovering something like this for the first time. We're saying, man, this shit's really good because there's a lot of bad material out there. Mm-hmm. And I also feel I've read the first like 2 or 3 stories, in the first 2 or 3 issues, and I'm like, man, this is actually a story. There's a middle, a beginning, and an end to each issue. And you're laughing, but I don't know if you've read a modern comic, but sometimes there's a middle, beginning, and end of a modern comic, and a lot of times there is not. And so, like that's how I feel, is that the reason why I think this is working now is because there's just been so much bad stuff that people say, look, the 80s were fantastic. So if I buy 10 comics from the 80s, 9 out of the 10 are going to be good. And so, I mean, that's how I feel. And I just think that with the internet and the idea that a lot of product being shitty, it's an easy sell to say, well, Larry Welz is a household name. Cherry is a simple story, and I can get it relatively cheaply and pretty clean in a nice edition. Kind of hit a home run.
Yeah, well, the stories I just I never knew what I was gonna do. I actually did the first one as a one-off. It was more like a proof of concept kind of thing. I got an idea for a comic that would look something like this, only better. And there'd be stories like this, only better. And it just the classic old whatever cliches, dirty jokes or something from class and stuff like that. And but then when it sold and I had to do more of it, then then I had to come up with something else. But I'm just making it up as I go, and I don't get the punchline until I get there. And but I always feel like I don't really do stories. They don't really I don't do any character development really, and there's not a situation there. It just doesn't have, it's not like Archie and Benny and Veronica where there's a triangle there. I don't have any of that going on. I haven't even developed the characters very well. And yet somehow people respond to it. So I don't know what it is exactly that I'm doing right, but
I think I think you just don't want to tell us, because I think you don't want nobody to knock you off just yet. I think you got to keep some of this to this. You be like, hey, this is mine. You guys figure it out. It's your thing. I completely get that you're keeping this a secret. I don't think you're fooling anybody on this one. I think you know exactly what you're doing. I really do. I mean, I have a pretty good idea why this resonates, because I think everybody can relate to Cherry, her circumstance, and I think a bunch of people just want to be in that circumstance. And then if you're fortunate, every guy's been in a situation where it's just like some girls hanging around with him, and it's always a good time. And then everybody knows a Cherry. Let's just leave it at that. You and me both in trouble. So everybody knows a Cherry, and I think this is why it works. And again, it's also not that complicated. It's not a complicated idea. But I must say I do like Statue of Liberty Cherry a lot.
Okay.
Just that thing's brilliant. That thing is absolutely brilliant in so many ways. But again, you can get this one, guys. I think you can get it on the Kickstarter. And I just want to remind everybody that it is
Indiegogo now is where you get it now.
You get it at Indiegogo too, apparently. So you can pretty much find it. If you type in Cherry Omnibus, you get this one. But instead of doing that, and while we're on the topic, because we still have to talk about the other thing that's going on, which is Cherry Jubilee, I want to say it's called.
Yes.
And so this
collection of that, I did 4 of them. And it's a anthology, and the idea was that I would do a story, and then I had other artists and writers do something with Cherry. So
what was that like? Because this was after a bunch of the issues that you did in the Omnibus, and this was sort of a sequel, side stories, just expanding on the world. And you had a bunch of people involved. Mark Bode was involved. Dave Warren was involved. Jim Pitts was involved. R.C. Harvey was involved. Dan Fogel, Marv Wolfman, Katie Wordsley was involved, and a bunch of others. And obviously, I mentioned some names. If you're into comics, your comic history, Marv Wolfman is Teen Titans. I think Mark Bode was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles he worked on.
Uh,
And there's just been a few others. I think Dan Fogel's done a bunch of stuff. I think R.C. Harvey's done some stuff as well. That's been my mind right now. But what was that like? Because you had some of the best at the time during the 90s on these books and some stories. And so what was that like? Because, again, Cherry is a little bit off Broadway, per se, but it's also popular and people like it. And it's kind of an interesting bunch of names that you would not expect on a Cherry book.
oh yeah, well, I just put it out there and see what then they. It's a chance for them to have a good time and sort of cut loose, And yeah, I think I believe that Dan DiCarlo was a fan of mine, and it's my theory, my hypothesis that Cheryl Blossom is not a knockoff, but inspired by Cherry.
So
Well,
what is that
also
like?
Hollywood and Ralph Bakshi's thing, Cool World. Brad Pitt's big one. And yeah, that was, but it's it's like, but I can't, like I say, it's not really, Cherry's not really specific. She's just a perky blonde, and you can't copyright that exactly. But anyway, yeah.
Let's go with the Carlo thing for a second, because, well, what is this like? Because I can't go too much into detail, but I'm having somebody on, and we're going to be talking about copywriting and when characters look alike and what you can and what you can't. And my view is that copying is the best form of flattery.
Right.
And so if Cherry Blossom is kind of, a little bit modeled after Cherry, I mean, and obviously I think you like Dan DiCarlo. Or is it Mike DiCarlo or is it Dan?
Dan DiCarlo, yes.
Oh, so I was right. So I think you like him. I think you two are somewhat friendly. Hopefully, hopefully you're not at each other's throats, because this would be really awkward if you were. But I digress. But what is that like for you? Because obviously Dan DiCarlo with Archie laid out a huge foundation, and then Cherry has influence potentially on the continuation of Archie, and it's kind of just your influences, and like he influenced you, and then you're influencing him, and then it's a really cool thing. So what is that like? Because it's kind of cool when that happens in comics, and people's like, I like this, and I want to do this slightly different.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to hang out with him much at all. I met him once in San Diego when he was doing some drawings and stuff, and I was whatever, commenting on the drawing there, saying, so he's doing the line under the chin. I was explaining to the person that I was doing the drawing for, oh, that's the hardest line right there, because it's under the, anyway, and I said something, I said, oh yeah, well, I do little comics, and he says, oh, what do you do? And he's still drawing, and I do, cherry Pop-Tart, and I swear, I think he just said, he didn't say, just sort of softly, I believe he said, my hero. So I think that the guys at Archie, whatever, they liked me, they envied me, because I got to go crazy with that shit. The publishers, not so much, right? I have in Treasure a letter I got from the law firm, their New England law firm. Battersby and Grimes, I remember the name of it. It sounds like Charles Dickens or something. And there was 50 associates on their letterhead, about how I didn't do that and shit. And then yeah, I treasure that. It means that I was doing something right.
Yeah, usually when you get a cease and desist, usually when somebody says, "Hey, could you back off from a lawyer?" It's usually you're on the right track on something.
Oh yeah.
Usually, not all the time. This is not legal advice, so please don't take it to heart. But usually when that happens, you're going somewhere in the right direction, the most part. But going back to getting to work with all these artists and writers and top people, I mean, I think it adds a lot of credibility because especially Marv Wolfman, Mark Bode, obviously both doing real work at real companies. And not, I mean, I don't want to say it that way. That's not the right way how to say it, but doing work and working on serious books for DC and doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and having real publishers behind them and having mainstream behind them is a better way to put it, I should say. And then they're like, hey, we want to work on this book and we know it's underground. We know what it is. And we know that you've been doing it for a while and we want to be part of it. I mean, that's got to be very humbling for you.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. It's great. I'm very I'm totally humbled that that they even wanted to do that. You know, it was that was great. I mean, Marv Wolfman, that was wonderful. I mean, doing the actual X-Men guy doing an X-Men story, you know, a funny X-Men story. That was great. That was a treat.
And then to even go further, because obviously that was in 1992 to 1994. 20 years or 30 years later, I think it's 30 years, right? Because 30 years later, you're now doing and republishing the graphic novel, and these people are even bigger now, where everybody knows, Marv Wolfman was big in the 90s, obviously coming off of Teen Titans, killing it in the 80s, creating a lot of those characters that are now huge. And then fast forward, you're republishing this, and a lot of people know who these people are in comics. They're still, signing at cons. People go see them. People bring old books, new books that they work on. And it's like almost like another treat that you get to share it again with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a huge Teen Titans fan. And obviously I backed this book. It's because I did back this book and I'm excited to read it. And these stories, but I'm excited because I know a lot of these people now and I've gone backwards and forwards. And so what is that like too? Because there's a whole bunch of people who are saying, wait a second, Marv Wolfman worked on a Cherry book? What the fuck? Like, that's the question, right? Like, explain, because Cherry is this underground, not safe for work, sex positive book. Marv Wolfman created Raven. I'm confused. Like that's the question. So
well, he couldn't put his name on it at the time. So that's just come out recently that was him.
But like you get where I'm going with this, right? Because now this is what's cool about it, is that these people have built and established such a legacy. And then now a lot of these people, I don't know if everybody could have put their name on it, but if you couldn't put your name on it when it first came in, and now everybody knows, and now your name is going to be on this book. And in this book, it's kind of saying, okay, maybe there's more to this legacy of a bunch of these people that we didn't know as fans.
Yeah, well, I'm very gratified. I really am. I think that's great. I mean, maybe I'm just tossing this stuff off. It's not meant to be significant or great literature or anything like that. I'm just having fun. We were just a bunch of kids doing 30 comics, and then so yeah, actually I'm actually a part of it, part of comics history now. It's like, oh yeah.
I'm not going to challenge your view on it, but I take this a different way, because again, for me, Cherry is a freedom of speech book in a lot of ways. It pushes the line. We are in a not safe for work era in comics right now. Everybody's trying to do them, trying to do those covers. And I've said this, I do not think without Cherry, I think we would have gotten there eventually, but I think Cherry helped to open up that door or walk through the door at the minimum. But I don't even think walking through the door. I think really cracking up the door is what Cherry did a little bit, and then things naturally followed. I don't think a company like Top Cow would be here without Cherry. I don't think a company like Zenescope would be here, or a Mount Olympus, or a Beowulf, or Stupid Little Monkey, which is the Flawless Universe. I don't think those companies would be here without Cherry.
Really?
I don't. I genuinely believe this. And the reason why is that you need somebody to push open a door that says, okay, here's where we're at, and now we're going to continue. It's the same thing with Howard Cruz. with leading the gay underground comics movement. We would not have LGBTQ comics without Howard Cruz pushing open that door.
Right.
Mean that Cherry is the greatest, and hopefully you won't get offended, the greatest not safe for work book ever created. It could be, but what it means is that somebody has to go through the door first.
Right.
People and pioneer the path. And that's what Cherry did. And even going into, this sequel and the spinoff, the fact that you then had other people come join you and walk through the door again, that's why I think this is so significant, this Kickstarter for comic history. Because the second you get a bunch of people, whether they could put their name on or not, who are top people, all of a sudden now this adds further legitimacy either during the time or 30 years after when this all comes out. If you're like, oh, now I get that there was a path being forged before anybody knew the path.
Yeah, well, in what was it, the 90s, early 90s, I guess it was. There was a thing called the smut glut, but that I think was me. And everybody goes, "Oh, look what Welz is doing over there. He's doing this nasty stuff and making a fortune." They thought I was making a bunch of money, which I wasn't. But anyway, then all of a sudden everybody was piling on, and there was like too much of it. It's like, okay, gee, sorry, but yeah, and I don't, I think, well, Cry for Dawn came out. I think that was directly what's his name with the Girl Genius. He was definitely inspired by me, and but yeah, so there. That was just before the whole industry imploded, and so that didn't continue. But there was a thing called the smut glut, and that I feel like I was totally responsible for.
So right, we're not blaming you. It's perfectly fine. I mean, if you want me to be responsible for it, I'll take the full any day of the week.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'll just put it right on my resume. And
yeah, right.
Responsible for the smut glut. Can I work for your company, please? They'll be like, oh yeah, sure, Andrew. Please explain to me what this smut glut glory thing is again. Please explain. Oh well, and then you go into the whole thing. But anyway, no, I don't want any responsibility. I had no part in that. I was 7 in 2000. I was born in 93. I missed all of this.
Okay, right.
It's unfortunate. I wish I was born. If I was born in the 80s, oh my God, I would have been all over this. But it would have been like kept in like a secret underneath, like all the sports magazines. Would have been great. We thought everybody's quiet in your house. Like, oh my God, Cherry. Oh, this is good. And then you like, oh, it'd be great. But again, even going further into this book, though, what I also like about this, from my understanding, is that you have different styles in all these stories, where you have, Archie stuff, you got a little bit, realer stuff in there in this book, and then you have some manga-esque styling as well. And what is that like? Because from my understanding of this book, and the one that's being funded on Kickstarter, is that it's definitely a mixture of styles, and nothing is stagnant in this book, where when I'm reading your Cherry and the 22 or 23 issues you did, a lot of the style stays the same. But right. I feel like, from what I've seen in this book, styles differ because you got a bunch of different creative teams working on it, and that's fun in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, it was just a different. I mean, like I say, we're just crazy kids doing comics, and I was just playing around, experimenting. Yeah, sometimes I would change styles in the middle of a story, just for fun. And of course, there is, like I say, there's no character development. There's no canon for Cherry, right? There's not a backstory or a certain thing that has. It's just fresh everything. She's just a girl, and she's in whatever situation I put her in for that story. So that and so I do the drawing style that's appropriate for that story that I'm telling.
Oh no, I like it, and I like the fact that you have a bunch of different writers, a bunch of different art teams, and you've given a bunch of people in this book also an opportunity to say, "Hey, look, we're gonna just play around with this world, and we're gonna have our own style, and anything goes." Because story A does not impact story B, and B and C don't impact D or A, and I think you could probably read them in any order for the most part.
Oh yeah.
And so, I mean, it makes so much sense. I mean, I don't know why you would ever stop doing this. I don't understand. Like, this seems like the ultimate story. It's like, I'm a huge One Piece fan, and my argument to One Piece is that the guy who's creating One Piece said we're on the final arc now, which means we got another 5 years of this shit. Everybody says so. It's not ending tomorrow, but I'm like, this is the ultimate story. Why would you ever want to end it? What's the point of ending this thing? This thing is awesome. You could go on forever. This story should never end, and Cherry should never end. It should just keep going. Because again, it's so just that story, and there's no canon, and it's just funny, and it's simple, and she's just a girl, and she's in a fun situation, in a lot of ways. And some of the covers are fun too.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, I'm trying to get a story going, a continuing story going, to maybe end up with a graphic novel, but that's just recently, and whatever. I'm having a hard time with it, getting a continuity going, because it's like I say, everything is different, so I have to make it up fresh every time, and that's really hard. I have no idea what I'm going to do next. So I don't have a story to continue.
Let me ask this, because do you want to do something where, are you interested in doing it just like almost like a one shot, and then you'll have like 4 one shots that are 20 pages a pop? Or do you actually want to have like issue 1, 2, 3, and 4 and they all connect? Because I don't know because correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not going to run the campaign yourself.
No.
You're going to probably do it through Discoria or somebody else, and they're going to help set up the page. They're going to do a lot of the marketing. So that's not the issue per se. The issue is more of a creative story problem, right?
Yeah.
I asked the question because in comics right now, there are 2 problems. There's story, and then there's the marketing Kickstarter debacle. That is hell on earth. It is hell on earth, because you could have the best idea, but if you don't know what you're doing on Kickstarter, or you're just not hitting the right notes, you will fail. If you want to get funded on Kickstarter, you could have an amazing story, versus you don't have the Kickstarter problem. You just need to come up with a good idea and then get it rolling.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that's yeah. And if you have an idea that's not that great, if you market it well, then you're still it still works great, which is strange, but that's the way it is these days. Marketing is everything.
Because that, I mean, going on that topic, and I'm curious because, again, I know what works on my show. I know what doesn't work on my show. I also understand that, it's tricky. Also, sometimes you have to give your audience a little bit of both. So sometimes you got to take opportunities as far as an interviewer saying, cool, this person can go either way. But if I interview 100 people, statistically, 20 of them will level up and will become bigger and will grow. And I want all the people I interview to do that. But a bunch of them are probably not going to make it in the industry, where they might leave after 2, 3, or 4 years. And a good chunk of them will. And then some people will stick around and slowly evolve. But there's going to be superstars that are being built. And I guess, I'm curious how you feel, because what I feel is going on Kickstarter is that, and even in comics, is that books are saying this is the greatest book ever, you need to buy it, and then it's average. But as you stated, it's almost like marketing, and they're marketing something to sell it, whether it's good or bad. And I think it's actually detrimental to comics versus a comic being good, and you should buy a good comic. Because again, I have the problem now where I go into a comic shop and I don't know what is good, bad, or is indifferent. Because I'm fed, Batman number 87 is the greatest Batman that's ever been produced. And then all Bleeding Cool on every news site states that. And I'm like, I read it, but I didn't get it.
Uh-huh.
Like I didn't get why this was great. And then I'm like, they say, oh, Batman Beyond #2 sucked. And I'm like, man, what are you guys talking about? This book's fantastic.
Right.
And then I speak to people on the actual, like, my friends who are reading the same books that I'm reading. Like, yeah, dude, Batman Beyond #2 was great. Batman 87 was a disaster. And we break it down privately, and like we're like, what the hell are these companies talking about? And so I'm just curious how you feel, because you kind of said it, but I don't know what that means for the industry, because if it's all just marketing, then what's the point of even creating a good comic versus just marketing marketing it like crazy? Because that's where I feel we're somewhat at in comics right now.
Yeah, well, it's now
It's not
being
fun. It's not fun. It's not fun.
yeah, yeah. Um, well, one thing, it seems to me like with now there's all these web comics. There's so many of them, and it seems and these guys are doing updates to it 2 or 3 times a week and stuff like that. And I just can't do that because I'm just uh, I never really consider myself a pro. I was never working on the deadlines like that. It wasn't a periodical that I was doing. And so I just, take my own sweet time about it. And whenever we get it, oh yeah, there it is. And so, but it seems to me like if you put on the web, you put something out there, anything at all, if you just keep it coming regularly, then you'll get a following. So that's not exactly marketing, but kind of, if you're coming out regularly. And but yeah, now things are being marketed as collector's items, which is kind of strange. I just I just found out that then 22, some of my old stuff, my old Captain Gus from before Cherry, way before Cherry, covers was sold for $10,000. I mean, what? Wait, what? No, what? I don't know. Like I say, I never thought of it. I'm just.
What is that like for you? Because I've seen cherry covers on eBay go for like $300-400, and I'm kind of like, this is kind of wild that people really value this stuff and people want it. I mean, it must be kind of, weird for you that, you got a cover from like some of your early works going for a lot of money. And it's kind of like, wait a second, there's a market for this stuff. People want this stuff. People find value in it. People want to have this in their collection. And even tabling, flipping or anything of that nature. But people say, look, I need to have this book in my collection and in my personal collection because it's important to me. And I don't know what that's like for you, because I would imagine it's flattering to some degree.
Oh yeah, well yeah, totally. Oh yeah, it's like I can't believe it. Like I say, I never really thought of myself as a pro. Just a talented amateur, just doing this weird stuff. It's undergrounds. It's not real comics, but and even comics is just comics. I mean, in the 50s when I was growing up, in the 60s, that comics was considered trash, and so it's very strange. It's like, what? Wait, what? It's like I'm a real artist. I mean, what? Wait, what? Is this real life?
Isn't it interesting? Because, I mean, what I was saying is that, isn't it interesting that I never got shoved into a locker when I was growing up, but I was a super nerd. I was into Pokemon. I was into, anime. I was into Gundam. This is what I did on my Saturday. I watched WB Kids and Toonami. It was great. And then all these people in middle school and high school started growing out of this. And I'm like, I'm a super nerd, man. Like, I'm watching Star Trek. I'm watching Star Wars. I'm watching all, like, Batman, Adam West. And I'm having a great time, and like I'm wearing like comic t-shirts, and people are like, yo, what is this kid doing, man? Like, who is this kid? Like, he's not into this other stuff everybody else is into. And now fast forward, I'm like 30, and all these people who were like kind of making fun of me and wanted to shove me in a locker, like, yo, dude, like Pokemon's awesome. Like anime's awesome. Comics are awesome. And I'm like, yeah, guys, like welcome to the club. Like, and so like, what is that like? Because I think that's kind of what happened to you a little bit, is that maybe in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, this wasn't exactly respected, but there's been some shift where people are like, you know what? I want to take another look at this, and man, this is kind of funny. And now I kind of want this stuff. And I think there's just been a culture shift where what's been viewed as smut and unintelligent and not worthy and kind of poisoning the youth, you
Right.
know, or in the words of Boy George, Church of the Poisoned Mind. Um, Boy George, gotta love Boy George. But yeah, I'm sorry, I love Boy George. I love Boy George.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know where I stand on Boy George. I mean, Boy George is very famous for saying, "I'd rather have a cup of tea than have sex." Amazing, just best fucking line ever during an interview. But anyway, it's kind of now like because that's what I think's happened, and that's why I think why you're doing well on Kickstarter. Would you do like 120,000 on the omnibus?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And then your action figures did, I think, I mean, did they do 100,000? Did they do more like 80? I forget what the action figures did.
I don't know. I forget what that was. I'm not. No.
And then
That's
I'm
really
hopefully,
that's not the thing I do. That's not my style. So it's definitely, it has to be somebody else running that stuff because
and then I think the one you're running right now, I think you're around 20,000. I'm going to put that you'll hit 45, 50,000 high end, if not exceed it. I think it'll end around that number. And I'm being conservative because if you hit 60, it looks really good. And if you hit 44,000, you missed it, and that still looks good that you're pretty close. But I definitely think you'll be in the 40s at the low number, and I think you'll be in potentially 60 or 70 with this, because you have 20, like I think 2,000 around that number, I think last time I checked, and you got like 25 days left, and it is cherry, it is this product. I mean, it's not that hard to know what it is. I mean, so and what is that like for you though, because this is real money now.
yeah.
This is real money. This isn't a game anymore. That when you're raising $120,000 on a crowdfunding on Kickstarter, and then I don't know what you're doing on Indiegogo, but all of a sudden, this isn't a joke anymore. This is real money, and this is real capital that is put into a project. And so, what is that like for you? Because I know that obviously you're not getting $120,000. You still got to produce the book and a bunch of stuff.
Oh no. Yeah. Well, that omnibus. He got. I mean, which is great, but he got a little crazy with the Kickstarter stuff. The extras and goodies and stuff like that. All the die cut covers and another alternate cover and all these different covers, which made it really expensive to make these damn things. And they're like $80 a book or something that they cost. That's goddamn. Yeah,
but nonetheless, I mean, you're raising.
But now that's actual money. It's like, wow, maybe I can actually make a living off of this. It was a side hustle. It always was a fucking side hustle, and I had to do something else. For about 30 years, I was mostly painting carnival rides, fun houses, and dark rides and shit. And that's a job that doesn't even exist anymore. The carnies are, it's old, but yeah. So it's it's strange. Like wow, maybe this will actually, like I say, maybe I'm like a real artist, and I can actually make some good money off my art. That would be strange. After I've been doing cherry for 40 years, but I've been doing comics for longer than that.
I mean, even table and making a living, it's just nice that people say, I value your work and I want to pay for it.
Yeah.
I have sponsorships on this show. I mean, obviously I read it. It is very humbling. And my show is self-sufficient at this point. It took 10 years to get it there, but it's very humbling when people say, I want to sponsor an episode and I find value in what you do, and I find value in you bringing things to me and to add space. And people are giving me, my libraries aren't that expensive, like $2.50, $3 a library, depending on what somebody wants, which isn't a lot of money in reality. But all of a sudden, it's very humbling when somebody says, I want to pay you for your services because I find value in what you do. And that's how I view your Kickstarter. That somebody says, I want to buy this book and I want to pay you and, patronize your business, not patronize, patronized. I make that
Right.
clear. They were not patronizing. This is a positive book, everybody. But I want to support a business and I want to support a project and I want to support a comic book. And it's just, I mean, the way I feel with my sponsorships, hopefully you feel the same way, is that, oh my God, somebody actually likes what I do and wants to treat me as a professional.
Yeah.
Because I've had this discussion where a professional is when somebody pays somebody else for a service they provide.
Right.
And that is a professional. And that's what this is. And that's what these Kickstarters are. And that's how I feel on my podcast. I can't tell you how you feel about people, going out and picking up a book and spending, I think it was 120. I think it was 120 this book. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
I know. And people are actually buying it. I can't believe it. But yeah, it is gratifying. It really is. But yeah, I mean, that, like they say to people, kids that want to get into comics, don't do it for the money. And I never did it for the money. But when my first book and everything, I had done it in high school in the back of a class, and one of those my Catherine Gus things. And when it got printed, and oh wow, I get $25 a page for. Oh wow, I actually get money for this. Oh, that's cool. I was doing it anyway, but that was, so I'm not doing it to make the money. And so I don't know, my mind doesn't think that way. I'm not motivated by money, actually. Really, it doesn't. That doesn't. I'm not even goal oriented.
I don't know. I'm very motivated by money, but I also understand that this show, and I've been very transparent about it, is that I make my money in my eBay business. I have a day job, and I have a side hustle and an eBay business. And because I do this show, it allows me to spot trends, and it allows me to run my eBay business and kind of catch things that I may or may not have caught as far as merch purchases and other things that I would want faster or more efficient, or I get a more general idea of pop culture. And because of that, I don't need to make money on this show. It's a research arm in a lot of ways. And I enjoy interviewing people a lot. And my only goal on this show is to be self-sufficient, which I'm achieving. So because the real benefit for me is that when you speak to 120 people from all over the world, you get a better sense of the world, and I get a better sense of business, and it actually runs my business efficiently. And so I figured out that, and if I don't fully fund it, let's say I get half funded, it technically is a tax write-off because it's under another business, which is my eBay business. So this is part of it. So and when I can do research dirt cheap, that is a very useful thing. And so when I'm speaking to a wrestler, I get a sense of what's happening in wrestling, and that affects how I purchase my comics. Because I'm like, okay, wrestling is going through a rough time, which means that other entertainment is probably going through a rough time too. But then when wrestling's at a high time, and every wrestler wants to like, yo, I can't get enough. I'm so swamped on 50 shows. Holy shit. I know, okay, we're in an entertainment boom, which means that people want content. So, it's very cool, but I definitely agree that you should not do anything solely for the money. It can be part of it.
Right. Yeah. Well, actually, right. I consider it my sacred duty as a cartoonist to mock the establishment, to do satire, and to point out the idiocy, and to share that with people and stuff like that. Thomas Nast took down the Boss Tweed ring, and shit like that. And and I got that all from reading Mad Magazine, and Mad Comics. I actually missed the Mad comic books, although I did read some of them before I could even read. But what I got was when the Mad magazine was going, but they put out some in the digest, the paperback pocketbooks of all the old comics in black and white, which is and I think it was interesting, actually, in retrospect and everything. But I didn't even know where they came from. They were just the Mad Pocket Man. I thought they were the greatest things ever. And yeah, so Wally Wood and Jack Davis and Willie Elder, so like that. The interesting thing is that their artwork in black and white, it worked. It totally worked in black and white. It didn't need to be colored. And the coloring was not much because they already done it all, which that was interesting. So and then we did what we did. Underground Comics. They started out as mini zines, little digest size in black and white. So that's the whole. So it's all Harvey Kurtzman's fault. He bent me. That was his. And I went up to San Francisco to draw comics for the revolution. That was what we were trying to do. We were, the hippie thing. We were doing something. We were part of something, and we were going to change the world.
I mean,
what kind of do?
People who were part of that. Trina Robbins was part of that.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
I love Trina. She's great. She's absolutely fantastic. She was on my other show, and then she's great. She's great, and she's got a little bit of a dirty mind too. A little bit, and I did not expect it. And it was an audio interview because I was doing audio at the time, and it was definitely caught me off guard because I'm like, oh my god, I'm like speaking to like my grandmother here, and like, right. and I say that out of complete respect to Trina. I'm like, kind of speaking to my grandmother here with her, like, but instead she just has like a filthy mind, like the way me and my friends do. And I'm like, this is really odd for me, like really odd. But like, I was talking about Mama Cass with her, and the like the stuff she's done with Donovan and Jim Morrison, and because she did clothes for them back in the day. She's a fantastic interview.
She was a cutie back then. She was.
Yeah. I mean, her and Joni Mitchell. She's one of the three ladies in the canyon.
Oh yeah, right.
Trina draws in her books. Oh, it's the whole thing is great. But again, was Dennis Kitchen out in Cali, or who else was out there? Because there's been a bunch of people who were out there.
Out where? What are you talking about?
During like the underground comics movements in the 80s.
Oh yeah. Well, Greg Arns and Dave Sheridan, they were good friends with me. They're both gone now. And who was it? Well, there's Dan O'Neill and Bobby London and this guy Gary Holgren. And before that was actually there was one guy. I really wonder what happened to him. Jim Osborne in the Bay Area. He was always organizing the get-togethers and stuff like that. And he wasn't real good, but he did stuff. He did some good stuff. And if he worked on it hard enough, then it was actually good shit. And he did about Sleazy Scandals of the Silver Screen. He did a wonderful story about Lupe Velez, Jim Finnick's suicide. Anyway, and who else? Von Bodie, but I only met him once. And
because I don't know many underground comics. I know Dennis Kitchen, I know Howard Cruz, I know Trina Robbins, obviously you, and there's a few others. But again, it's kind of just, I don't want to say it's a lost art, but it sort of is to some degree. And I think a lot of people in comics who are doing comics today have forgotten the history of comics. And I think it's a detriment. I think that if you really want to do comics, you should know some of the history. You should know some of the underground stuff and like the indie scene, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's nothing should ever be mandatory in life. That's very much anti-freedom of speech and freedom in general. But underground comics were the first indie comics in a lot of ways,
Uh-huh.
and I think it would do a lot of creators good if they understood some of that history.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think it's a problem. And I mean, I'm gonna get flack for this, and hopefully you don't mind me saying it, but a lot of LGBTQ comics, I feel like a lot of those people don't know who Howard Cruz is. They don't know that Trina Robbins wrote the first open lesbian story. That's a big deal. If you're writing whatever sector you're writing in, you should have an idea. If you're writing dirty realism, you should know who Charles Bukowski is.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, I would kill to interview him if he was still here. Oh my God. Oh my God. You just bring a bottle of whiskey and you just go for 6 hours. Oh my God, it'd be fantastic. Yeah, I read Post Office just at the right time in my life. And oh my God, that book changed my opinion. And then I read Ham on Rye a little while later, and that was great. And then I want to read Factorium and Women. Oh my God, what a great writer! What a great writer!
Oh yeah.
What a fascinating man. Oh my God. But again, I digress. I go down a rabbit hole on all this. I'm 31, and then we all know what I'm doing in 4 days. It's only Monday, guys. It's only Monday.
Uh-huh.
I have to be responsible until Thursday night. But I digress. I digress. No, I find it fascinating. I'm very excited to read the rest of Cherry. It very much it's similar to Mandy. It's similar to Diego's Mandy. And then what else is it similar and engaged with? There's just a bunch of good stuff. And then I'm excited to read this book. I mean, I backed it because I want to know what the hell happens with this stuff, and I want more. I think we all want more.
Yeah. Well, all right. Then was of course Larry Todd and George Metzger. He does wonderful. He used to show up on my porch in Petaluma, my first wife, every once in a while, and anyway, yeah, and Larry Todd, he was kind of one of the honorary air partners as I was, but yeah, we're very good friends. And Mark Bodie, and yeah, because he worked. But anyway, yeah, and he painted Carnival Rides with me. I got him into that, and but he's amused that now we seem to be the elder gods of the underground comics. It's like, yeah, I guess so, because we're still alive for one thing, because a lot of our contemporaries are gone, and yeah. So, but it's interesting that there's seems to be a resurgence of interest in that. But it's like the whole hippie thing, and then nobody even knows what the Summer of Love was in 1967. I mean, that was an epochal turning pivotal time of everything, and actually the hippie scene was already deteriorating at that point when I moved up there. And
say that there's some bad acid going around. I'm sorry, wrong thing. That was way later, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. No, yeah, well, yeah. Oh, we did. We hear Grateful Dead playing for free in Golden Gate Park. I saw Jimi Hendrix in Golden Gate Park because I had a flatbed truck. Yeah, but yeah, and so it's like now it's I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what they think about it. These you guys growing up there, it's like this ancient history to you, right? And so you can't even imagine what it was like.
So I think there's a bunch of great stuff like Cherry that's out there that's coming back. And I'm not just saying that because you're on my show, but I think Trina Robbins, some of her stuff is coming back out. I think that also what's happened is that you have people like Denny O'Neil's work, Chuck Dixon's work from the 90s are really popular right now. Chuck Dixon's Birds of Prey from the 90s is being republished by DC. And so a lot of stuff from the 90s and early 2000s is now coming back, and it's kind of selling in graphic novel format. And so what I think, and then obviously, I mean, music wise, I don't listen. I mean, I listen to Ariana Grande. I like Taylor Swift. I like Billie Eilish. I like Green Day sometimes. Um, and Foo Fighters are great. Um, but again, I'm not listening to like this new way. I like Ava Max, but like I'm not listening to Cardi B. I'm not listen like I'll listen to Eminem. I'll listen to Dr. Dre, but like Cardi B, I have no desire for Cardi B. But I'm also listening to a lot of stuff like Ozzy Osbourne and Led Zeppelin, stuff from like the 70s, 80s, the Rolling Stones, like that stuff, Metallica, like because I think that stuff is just better product. And I think what's going on right now is that I think that, at least the way I feel, is I have X amount of money and I just want the best products that I can afford. And if I buy $1,500 worth of Kickstarters, I'm expecting 200 of that to be shitty. I'm expecting it, but I really try to make sure it's less than that. I want it to be none shit, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with all the products I consume. I do my fucking best to make sure that I don't consume shit.
Yeah, it was like record albums. When music was on an album, you had to get it, and you get the latest album and everything. And there'd be, if you're lucky, there'd be 2 or 3 cuts on it that you liked that were good. And the whole thing being good was very rare.
What was the last good album or CD that everything was a hit? There's only one answer. There's only one correct answer.
What?
There's only one correct answer. There's only one album that should come to everybody's mind.
Yeah.
He's Born to Run. Every song on Born to Run, that CD was a hit.
It was. Well, Clearwater, they did everything they did was a hit.
Who?
Of course, but
who'd you say?
Queen's Clearwater Revival.
Oh, CCR.
Yeah, them.
CCR is good. I can give you that, but Born to Run,
Okay.
And the whole thing from start to finish. The Jungle Lands. Thunder Road, Born to Run. 10th Avenue Freeze Out. Like all of that is perfect. Like that whole album, for whatever reason, every single song is perfect on that album.
Right.
And that doesn't mean everything that goes to Tom Joad. Not really a fan, Bruce. That doesn't do it for me. But Born to Run, that whole 9 songs, perfect. But again, this is what I think is happening, is that I think people are getting sick and tired of buying shit, and then they're actually doing their homework. And that's what I think is going on. That's what I think people are going to look. I'll go back to, the 1950s for stuff. I'll go back to the 80s, the 70s, the 90s are really popular right now. Because people are sick and tired of saying this isn't good. And I think people have figured out, not they haven't articulated it, but I think people have figured out saying, I know my gut is telling me that this is bad, and I don't want to buy it because it's bad, or they're testing it out to some degree before they buy it. They're like, nah, it's not for me. My $10 should go to something better. And I think that's what's going on. And that's why I think things like, underground comics are coming back, and other things from the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s are really popular because people are like, I enjoyed it back then. I'm going to rewatch it. And this is actually pretty good for what it is. So, I mean, and also I think the other side of this too is that in COVID forced people to stay home. People weren't commuting to work. They had more money. Some people got assistance, while still being able to work. Some people got major tax breaks, and a bunch of other stuff happened, and a bunch of people might have gotten a bunch of free money. So they might have bought also more Kickstarters and been more loose and free with what they were buying. And now people are saying, I have to be way more selective. And so I want to buy quality and not quantity. And that might also be an thing.
And quality where you didn't know where to look before. But yeah, and like I say, what nice stuff. Most of that stuff that I saw on Heritage Auctions. It was in 22. So right in the middle of the pandemic, right? So oh yeah, there must be. It's like there was some event happened that I didn't hear about or something, but it must have been exciting, whatever it was, because like a whole bunch of my, my first pages of my were going for $5,000. I mean, holy shit, really? But
It
yeah,
could also be that what happened is that maybe somebody bought them 30 years ago, and when they were, 35, and now they're retiring, and
right,
they want to make their exit, and they know that they have something. Or conversely, maybe somebody was like 40 when they bought this stuff, and their kids just discovered it after they passed away. Not to make this grim, but they're like, I'm into baseball, not comics, but I know this stuff's worth money. And so it could very well be that something just started flooding the market because maybe somebody said it's time to make an exit. I've had this for 30 years and it hasn't been public, or somebody passed away, or it was found in a storage locker.
right.
Just because that could also be it, where somebody's like, oh my God, I have first pages of Cherry. I know Cherry is a big deal, but I'm not into comics, and I paid $500 for the storage locker, and I have 26 pages of this book in original art. Like, and this has never come out before. And so it could be something along those lines, I think.
Yeah,
Because
well, it used to be going. Yeah, right. You used to go to San Diego Comic Con, right, when it was fun, and
it used to be fun. Are you kidding me?
yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I swear to God. Oh yeah, when they moved over to the new convention center that they just built, and then went in there, and there was a 30-foot high Sonic the Hedgehog in there that the Sony.
Hey, I love Sonic the Hedgehog. Please don't disrespect Sonic the Hedgehog. Me and Ken Penders from Archie. He hasn't banned me yet, but he will. He will. And
Anyway, but it used to be that I would sell a lot of my original art at those things. I had on my table stacks of my thing, and what would happen is the dealers would come and look at it all through the weekend, and then depending on whether they did well or not, then they'd come back on Sunday and buy a bunch of stuff, and I'd make thousands of dollars, and then I'd take my family on a vacation, and it was great. So then, yeah, so that's where that shit came from. That's now being sold for $10,000, right?
but it goes to the fact that this is culturally relevant.
Yeah,
Nobody's going to pay $10,000 if it's not worth $10,000 or more.
yeah. Well, the whole art market thing is completely mystifying to me. And
I'm not an expert
I
in
never got into that stuff. I mean, I do all kinds of other, art and stuff, but I just never got into that scene. I don't know how that works.
I'm not really into that either. I don't have original art. I play a lot with CGC books, regular books, things of that, variants, but I'm not going to go touch original art because to me, it just seems way more complicated. And if you're buying a piece for $5,000, it's a lot of money and I don't want to lay out $5,000.
Right.
I much easier for me laying out $100 and maybe I'll sell that book for $180, $200 because it's less money, less risk and less capital. And I'd rather sell 50 books at 100 a piece than have one piece at 5,000. Because I think it's just easier to move smaller numbered items
Oh yeah.
and move more of them than to do it the other way around. Because God forbid that piece of art doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
He's into it. Versus if an item of $100 or $200 doesn't work, it's only $200.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not in that space, and nor do I want to be, because I think I would have a heart attack. Now, would I want to buy original art for myself? That's somewhat, of course. Like, it'd be cool to have some like original Cherry art or some original Star Wars art. Like that stuff would be awesome to have. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that some of that stuff wouldn't be cool to have, but I don't need it at the moment. And eventually, though, it'd be cool because original art's awesome. Knowing that like somebody did like the inks on it right before it got colored, that's pretty cool. So But I digress. We all have things that we want.
Right.
I want a yacht too, but that's not the point.
Right.
I want a yacht, and I would like to be able to sleep till like 11 o'clock every day. That those two things would be great. I'd be pretty happy as a person on both of those things. But yeah, but this isn't about me. This is not about me. And so obviously, I think we covered a lot of stuff. And you got a lot more stuff coming. You're obviously, hopefully, working on a new Cherry story, because I would like that. And I mean, I would say go for single issues if you can, because I think you do well in single issues.
Yeah. Well, I'm putting the finishing touches on the Cherry number 24 right now, and it's a continuation of the story from 23. And yeah, that'll happen.
Is this the 1 to 23? This one?
1 to 20, yeah, 1 to 22, yeah.
So 23 is not in here, or is it in here?
What 22 is, but not 23.
Okay, so okay, gotta figure out how to get 23 then.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're gonna do a collection of LED stories. Cherry's nerdy best friend, and well, she's a cyberpunk, and so I'm gonna start doing and we're gonna come out with a book where do like Jubilee, where I got other artists that really want to do stories for that, and so I got to come up with one for that and a cover, and so watch for that.
So are you going to be doing this in single issues, 23, 24, or are you going to just go straight to graphic novel? Because
no, I want to do single issues and then collect enough for a graphic novel, which is like 200 pages or something like that.
So are you going to kickstart them? Because that to me seems like the best thing to do, because obviously doing like 4 to 6 variants, having awesome stuff on there, and having like a hollow foil Cherry, like limited to like 50 or even like 100, or like an ice break. Oh my god, I got so many ideas for you. Doing like a crystal flack foil ice braked variant. Oh, and like charge like $80 for it. Oh my god, and limited to 50. Those things are gonna fly out like crazy. And then if they don't fly out, you could put them onto Whatnot. You could put them onto eBay. Oh my god, the possibilities are endless. I mean, I'm thinking about me because I run a business, right? Like, I'm just thinking about me on my business front. Oh my god, I could sell your book so much fun. Oh my god, I make so much money. It's about me. It's not about you. I have no problem doing that, because if I make money and you make money, everybody's happy, right? If Discoria makes money, we're all happy, because everybody just wants to get a piece of the pie, and everybody wants to make enough that there's enough, because I think there's enough meat on the bone. But I can tell you, if you do like a silver foil ice break hollow foil, on a Cherry cover, I think you're gonna do amazing. 80 to 100 easy. 80 to 100, depending on what you want to charge for those and how much they cost to produce. 80 to 100 a piece, I think you'll sell out like crazy, especially if they're limited to like 50 or less.
Right. Yeah. Well, what we're gonna do is we did a reprint of the first Cherry and Cherry number 1, Cherry Pop Tart number 1.
Was that by Rose Beish?
But Peach Momoko did a couple of covers for it, and so we want to do that. That was a limited edition, though, of course, but we're going to do that with a foil, a metal cover.
Those are good too. I like metal.
Different edition, and that will go, because Peach Momoko is really good and really big. And yeah,
I think the Rose Beish, if you could do that in a metal.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because I have that one, and I made the mistake of I should have bought the trade dress with it. I only bought the version of that. Because didn't Larry Flint do the forward in that book?
The what?
Who did the forward in that book?
What book?
Reprint of the Rose Beish cover.
Forward. That no, that was there was no forward. That was just
No, I think in the reprint somebody did like a blurb in the front of it.
oh, not the number one. No.
Maybe unless Rose Beige did the number 3 or reprint
Oh,
number 3.
yeah, number 3, and that was what was that?
Because now I'm so curious now because now I have it up. I'm down in my basement, so I don't have it near me, and I don't feel like going up my steps and like tumbling through stairs. But I mean, I know somebody did it because that was where I think isn't that the one where Cherry is the Statue of Liberty, like in the inside cover?
Oh yeah.
It's great. It's amazing. So I mean, it's neither here nor there. It's sold out though, which is unfortunate. Sold out pretty quickly. I think Frankie's Comics had a copy, and that's where I got mine from because they had like buy one get one free. So I was very happy because I got 2 comics for the price of one, which is always nice. I enjoy getting comics cheaper. I'm not opposed to a good deal, everybody. Not opposed. But yeah, no. I would be very interested in a bunch of foils of either 23 or 24, especially if it's Peach Momoko, Rose Beige, somebody else who's big, Sun Kumanaki. That's an artist that you should be on the lookout for. She's Cherry Book. I'm telling you, we'll keep that one close to the vest.
Who?
Sun Kumanaki.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm not familiar with that.
She is a Zenescope artist. She's done stuff for Lady Death. She's done stuff for a lot of people now. She has her own stuff that she does. She's great. Jose Vartis or Vergas is great.
Okay.
Who else is really, really good right now? Keith Garvey. That's another good one.
Okay.
Paul Green. Actually, no. Paul Green. Yeah, Paul Green's actually really good, but Keith Garvey I think would do great. Or RB White would do good too.
Oh, okay.
But there's a lot of great people in comics right now who I think would draw Cherry amazingly. Sun Kumanaki, Peach Momoko, or Rose Beige on a fucking foil like ice spray cover. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'll send you a copy of what that looks like. Because once you see it, you'll be like, oh, I get it completely, and your mind is just gonna start flipping out. And I'm telling you, this is like. And then the crazy part is that you could theoretically probably do different ice spray colors too.
Okay.
So you could do like silver, you could do red, you could do green. Oh man, you're gonna have like a whole set of like 50 of each different color. You'd be like, oh my god, these things sold out in like 2 days. I did more colors. I don't know what I did wrong. It's gonna be great. We're making too much money here. It's a problem.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Hey. All I have to say is that I enjoyed when I was broke, and I enjoyed the journey to get where I was at and where I'm at right now. And I'm still on the journey as an entrepreneur in my eBay business, figuring it out. But I definitely enjoyed when I was thrilled that I bought an item for $2 and I sold it for $12.
Okay.
Because I wasn't making a lot of money, but it was the idea that, okay, this can actually work. And that's all I have to say is that it's a lot more fun when you're starting a business or you're starting a business proposition and it's working and you're making a little bit of money because you're like, oh man, this is fun and it's working. And then it kind of gets old when you're like, okay, I'm making X amount of money in profit. And how do I 10x this? And then you have to deal with every problem, which is what I'm dealing with now. And it's not fun. And that's all I have to say.
When you gotta do it for work, and then all of a sudden it's work and it's something you have to do. And oh wait, I'm supposed to love this, and this is what I love. Yeah.
I'm very torn in my life with my business, where I love my business, but now when there's real money coming in, it's not that, oh man, I bought a book for $10 and I sold it for $100. It's I bought a book for $10, I sold it for $100. I'm glad, but I also have a lot of product and I have a lot of other things going on, and it loses its glory from the first time you did it. But it's still fun that I made money. So that's all I have to say on that. But again, people can agree, disagree, all that fun stuff. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited. So are you kickstarting? Is 23 out yet, or
No,
is it going to be out yet?
23 is, yeah, but not 24. But yeah, 23's been out for a while.
Oh man, I don't know how I missed this. I don't know how I missed this. I have to go pick up. I'm gonna have to go find a copy. I might have to go bother.
Yeah, go to our website, cherrycomics.com.
Perfect. I know what I'm going to be doing on Friday when I get paid. After I pay down my debt.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. I bought some stuff that I'm glad I bought it, but at the same time, it's a good thing that I bought for my eBay store, but figuring out how to finance it kind of sucks. But I'm glad I did it anyway, because when I'm right, it'll be worth a lot more money than what I paid for it. So, but I'm actually gonna pick up 23 because now I'm really curious, and now I definitely want to, because I'm in the middle of reading this one, and then the nice Cherry, Larry Welz says Cherry Omnibus. You can get yours on Indiegogo. You can absolutely get yours on Indiegogo. I don't know if you could add on to the Kickstarter. You might be able to. I'm not too sure.
I don't think you can do anything on the Kickstarter anymore. That's over.
No. On the new one.
What? Oh, yeah.
I think you can. I don't want to quote it. I'm not part of that process, but it would be bewildering to me. And I'll just say is that if you couldn't add it on to the new Kickstarter that's going on right now for Jollibee, or that one, the new one, the new cherry that's on Kickstarter right now. I think there's some laser etch ones still around. And I think there's some other stuff around. So, but yeah,
The Choice Jubilee is going on Kickstarter right now. So
that's the one. So obviously that's on Kickstarter. So you should go back that if you're looking for a cherry book. And then I know there are some add-ons, and you might be able to add on the omnibus. You might not be able to add on the omnibus, but there are a bunch of add-ons that are in play. So right. I digress on that. Link is in the description, up above, down below, to the side, for the Kickstarter. But obviously, I don't want to keep you here all night, as much as I enjoy you, and I'm glad we got to do this again. Because I enjoyed the first one. It did very well on YouTube for me, and it's going to do. Okay. Yeah. It's my 14th highest interview / video right now on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Which is good. And it was in the 10th place for a while.
Really?
It took about 16 months for you to get kicked out of 10th place. So you held on. You held on for a while. It's steep competition. You had some steep competition. I'm sorry. But okay. I mean, you fended off. You fended off about 800 competitors.
Oh, yeah? Jeez. Okay.
So, I mean, you fended off the Bushwhackers. You fended off, you fended off, Barry Yandel, who plays Mr. 2 from One Piece. You fended off Chopper for a while, Rena Palencia. You fended off Daniel Ba, who plays Jinbei from One Piece. You fended off the Miracle Generation, who are wrestlers. You fended off Brian Malonis for a while, who is the only guy who had a indie match with John Cena. So you had some fierce competition. It was not for naught. You fended off Sasha Nakamoto, who was like a VTuber / adult entertainer. So you did a good job the first round. 16 months of defending the 10th spot.
All right.
But and I have no doubt that this thing will do well too. I'm expecting it to do well on YouTube. But again, enough about that. Where could people find you, find the campaign, bother you, buy some stuff? If you're going to be at any cons, because I know that Cherry is an interesting book and is definitely more adult, might be a good way to put it. versing where it is not a family-friendly book. And I say that not because it's violent, but because it is sexual by nature.
Right.
So where can people find you, follow you, hit you up, find you, all that fun stuff?
What? Oh, our website, cherrycomicswithanx.com.
Well, and everybody knows the drill. Obviously, if you like comics, you want to support comics, there's a bunch of ways how to support. Obviously, there is a campaign going on with Jerry right now, and I did put the link down below. If you type in Cherry on Kickstarter, it will pop up, and you will know which Cherry it is. If you type in Larry Welz, it will probably also pop up. If you type in Discoria, it may or may not pop up, but I think it will as well. So there are 3 ways how to find that, or you could click the link in the description, either on YouTube, Facebook, or my personal Facebook where this is streaming. You can check it out. And then furthermore, you go to cherrycomicswithanx.com if you also want access to this. And I'm sure it can direct you to the Kickstarter as well as some other back issues and some other merch. And let's say that money's tight, because I get it. You can follow people on social media, sign up for email lists, sign up for, or follow them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can just share out the campaign. You can just put it on your Facebook wall. You can tweet about it. You can tag it. You can engage in whatever fashion you want. You can make an Instagram post. You can make a TikTok. You can make a little YouTube shout out if you want. There's no such thing as doing too little. So that's something to keep in the back of everybody's head. And so I recommend people do that because, or, you could just pledge $1, and $1 goes a long way. If a bunch of people come together and a bunch of people throw $1, and if 500 people throw $1 into a campaign, that campaign has $500, and somebody can do a lot with $500. You'd be surprised in comics. So, but that's all I have to say about you. And then obviously it's my show. I'm going to promote myself. So I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on TikTok, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube, guys. I like to subscribers on my YouTube, and I like to engage with people. So feel free to subscribe on YouTube. It does make a difference. And please, like my videos and watch them. I am on the path to trying to get monetized very slowly. We have 581. The goal for March is to end at 590. We are 9 short. So I much appreciate anybody and everybody who subscribes. Goes a long way. And as well as my Friday nights, I'm on Whatnot now. And so my Whatnot link is in the description. It is Pop Anime Comics. Whatnot, I have some awesome books, and I could show some of them. I actually technically have a very cool book that is only available on Whatnot. As soon as I find it, it is this little bad girl right here. So I bought all 15 of those from Mount Olympus, and they are beautifully shiny and hollow foils. So those are only available on my Whatnot. And they are buying now. You can buy them right now. And every week I'm going to be doing 2 or 3. And I'm charging, I think, $65. So you can go to Whatnot right now and you can buy it and I will ship to you. But that book will not be available anywhere else. And I have many other books that I bought print runs out of. And I'm not too sure where they're going to be. Some might be on Whatnot. Some might be on my eBay store. Some might be split between. And I don't know. And if that book does go onto eBay, I will be charging $90 on eBay for that book purposely. So that's everything that I got going on, everybody. And then my eBay store is Pop Anime Comics collectibles. So that's what I got. So if you type in Pop Anime Comics, it's pretty much everything that I do. So that's all my social media. And on that note, I am going to give you the final word.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's nice talking to you. And it's nice to see new interest in this crazy stuff that we used to do when we were kids. And it was, I didn't realize I was making history. It's great. But thank you for that.
Oh, anytime. And thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Absolutely. And I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a